Welcome, everybody, to Wire Sports Podcast, episode 134. I am Wire to Wire Gene with a fresh cut, looking spry for a beautiful episode we have. NBA talk, NFL draft recap, UFC. We got some horse racing, Kentucky Derby, and some You Gotta Be Kidding Me. But there's been huge breaking news. And I don't even know if you guys know about this. It just came through on my phone. So I'm going to just let a couple more people get in on this because there's been huge breaking news in the NBA that just came through on my phone. Besides the fact that Joel Embiid has won the MVP, which you guys know already, there's been breaking news that just crossed my desk. Did you guys hear about this yet?
No, you're gonna say it?
It's going to shake up the NBA playoffs. I'm trying to let as many people as possible hear. It's shaking up the NBA playoffs as we know it. Kevin Durant of the Phoenix Suns has opted out of his contract with Phoenix and is signed with the Denver Nuggets. He's now playing for the Denver Nuggets. His team went down 0-2, and he's now up 2-0. It's a Kevin Durant move. I don't know what to tell you. He's now on the other team. Chris Paul got hurt. Kevin Durant has found a way in the NBA clause to join the Denver Nuggets. He said this is his team now. I don't know what to tell you.
I mean, it wouldn't be the NBA without Kevin Durant moving over to the favorites and Chris Paul getting hurt.
Oh, facts. Man, Chris Paul needs to retire. I love me some CP3. I've loved him his whole career. He has brought true point guard professionalism for the last 15 years, and it's done. It's it. It's wrap. It's a wrap. His tendons just can't handle it. Send him home. Phoenix would be best off, and they need a new leader too, because that team doesn't have a leader.
See, I don't know about that one. I think
we're gonna hear some ridiculousness. Good.
I think I don't think Devin Booker is a natural born leader by any means. But the way he's played throughout the playoffs so far, I think he can be a lead by example kind of guy.
I agree that he could be a lead by example type of guy, but with the guys that are on that team, you need a verbal a guy that everybody listens to. Like you need a Chris Paul type on that team, especially with some of the personalities and some of the shall we say egos on that team.
You need a vet for sure, but I don't think you need a Jimmy Butler to necessarily go over there. Like if PJ Tucker went over there, I think they'd be fine with that, like that presence in the locker room.
Oh, I agree. I don't think it has to be a veteran superstar. I just think it has to be a veteran with somebody who's been there, done that type thing.
Okay, I'm gonna let y'all in on something. If you didn't know it, douchebag has the same initials as Dylan Brooks. Devin Booker also has those same initials. And I'm going to help you out because Devin Booker is Dylan Brooks, but just a better player. The guy talks when he's up. He's an absolute coward when his team's down. He shows up small when someone gets in his face. Bro, the Luka Doncic stuff last year showed who Devin Booker really was. I'm tired of him getting compared to Kobe Bean Bryant, saying, oh, I want to be like Kobe and this, and that. Devin Booker is an absolute dud. You guys are a very good player, but an awful leader. He's terrible at leading. You want to talk about a guy that lost by 50 in a Game 7 last year after talking smack to Luka Doncic up 3-2. Looked lost like he was going to cry. His puppy dog was gone. Then earlier in the year, he doesn't say a word the whole game, and they end up winning the game versus Dallas, and he's talking smack to Luka at the end of the game like you don't remember the 50 bomb they just put on you last year. Devin Booker's a joke, bro. He'll never be a leader on the NBA team. I'm tired of it.
I think people can definitely grow from that. Like Devin Booker hasn't. I haven't really heard anything.
He grew from it from last year and doing it the same thing.
Yeah, people can 100% grow in a year. I think more so like they were winning. We saw how dominant and I get it, Kawhi got hurt, and all that, but you didn't see Devin Booker just saying crazy things. Like he was just going out, putting up 40, 38, 50, whatever he needed to do. And that was that. Obviously, your job gets a lot easier when you got a guy like Kevin Durant on your team.
Correct.
But I'm saying he hasn't been the mouthpiece that he was last year. That he's been.
He did 3 weeks ago versus Dallas.
That's a regular season game. That has history
That makes it
behind
better.
No, but everybody talks. Everybody talks. You beat me, and you talk, and then I come back the next game. I don't say anything to you all game, and then we win. Of course, I'm going to say something back to you,
bro. You need to talk when the ups and the downs. Don't be a Dylan Brooks.
I get you. I get you on that. I get you.
Speaking of Dylan Brooks, you see the comments. Memphis is not signing him under any condition, any circumstance. I called that. I called that last week. I said he ran himself out of the league. I think he's. Listen, I'm not trying to be smart when I say this. Who signs him?
Somebody will sign him.
Why? Well, why would you bring that into your locker room?
I think you can make the argument, to some degree that, he, wasn't a. He's a better player than he showed at the end of this, at the end of the playoffs. I mean, he did say that, and to some degree, if you look at his career numbers, he's not wrong. I think he's going to have to go somewhere that has good leadership, and I think there's going to be a lot of conditions and prerequisites and stuff like that. If somebody's going to sign him, that that the extracurriculars are going to be kept to a minimum type thing.
And I think that being, especially the way the league is right now, I get it. Dylan Brooks didn't shoot the 3 ball as well as he has, in years past, but when you're a 3-and-D wing kind of player, you find a way to stick around in the league. And I think Dylan Brooks being that, he's like a 6'6", 6'7" kind of guy. So versatile defender. I get it. You don't want the extracurriculars, and maybe you don't want to bring that into your locker room. But at the same time, if you have a locker room where, let's say, just for example, a team like Miami that has such a strong culture there, and they don't have to worry about him coming in and just tearing the whole thing down because they know what they've built there. I think that could be a situation where, you see a guy like Dylan Brooks go and can make a team better. Now, I'm not saying he's going to have a plethora of opportunities, but hit with the services that he has where he can defend wing players, and he's not, on average, he's not a terrible 3-point shooter. I know the playoffs, he showed that he kind of was, but on average, he's not that. I think there's some value in the caliber player that he is.
I think he needs to go play with Dwight Howard in China.
He'll be on an NBA roster next year.
All right, well, let's talk about the NBA series that happened so far. We already had the breaking news that started the show with Kevin Durant now signing with the Denver Nuggets. But let's talk about that series real quick. Chris Paul's out, groin injury. They're down 0-2. The depth has looked terrible. Monty Williams, I give him so much credit. I love Monty Williams. He is doing a terrible job in this series. Do we forget Terrence Ross is on that roster? What are we doing?
And they made a move to get him during the, I get it. He got cut and they signed him, but you made a move during the deadline to bring in a guy like Terrence Ross. So I don't get why he's not playing. You have another vet in TJ Warren that has, plenty of experience that can get you a shot off the bench. I don't understand what Monty's doing either.
And it's sad because, look, they have so much talent on that team with Ayton, Booker, Durant, Chris Paul. And you watch that game, it was 66-58 when Chris Paul got hurt on that offensive rebound where he got it jumped over his shoulder. I guess he tweaked something. They make it 66-60. He walked down court. You could tell he was hurt. I knew it immediately by the way he went down court. They stole the ball. They dunked it. It was 66-62. Phoenix calls a timeout, and Chris Paul goes to the locker room, and they lose the game by 10. An 18-point swing from when he was hurt to the end of the game. And he was feeling it, man. He was playing great. He was getting his mid-range jumpers. He was facilitating that offense. I was confident that Phoenix was going to tie that series at 1-1. And then the injury happens. What percentage chance do you give Phoenix to come back and win this series? Percentage chance. You can't say 0. That's not realistic.
It is realistic.
Jokic gets hurt tomorrow. You give them 0% chance?
I mean, you can't.
So you want to go 5%, but you're hoping you're in hope and in need of something like that to happen.
I'm not saying that. I'm just saying you can't say 0.
Okay, so fine, 1.
Okay.
If
I
Denver stays healthy, that series is over.
All right.
I say 25% chance.
I'm right with
I
you.
think when you have I saw what Kevin Durant did when he was in Brooklyn against that Bucks team that ultimately went on to win the championship, and you got a superstar in Devin Booker. I think those guys can get hot, and you could put the team on your back when you're those caliber players. Now, I get it. The Nuggets have been playing great basketball, and the way it looks now, I don't think it's very likely. But when you have, I mean, Devin Booker has played like a top 15 player this playoff so far, and then we know what Kevin Durant is. So you got two of those guys. I have to give you a chance.
I'm at 25.
Booker's played that way the first 2 games, and they're 0-2, and that was with Chris Paul. Denver stepped up their defense, and they're just a deeper team. When those second units come on and they're resting everybody, they're getting floored. They had 4 bench points in game 2. That's not going to cut it, and we knew this was going to happen. They sold their soul to get Kevin Durant. They absolutely did.
They
have no depth.
Booker has definitely played that way. Kevin Durant hasn't been the Kevin Durant that we're used to seeing. DeAndre Ayton has been getting bullied. Yet the last game he did look more interested on the offensive end, but he has no answer for Jokic. And right now the Suns, for whatever reason, are just not doubling Jokic, even though he's given Ayton the blues. So I mean, I think there's adjustments that can be made, and we can see a swing in this series. But like I said, 25% is just off the sheer fact that they have Kevin Durant and Devin Booker.
Yeah, no, I follow you. I think 25% is where I'm at too. I think that the Phoenix Suns, role players play a lot better at home, and you never know what happens if they go out and win game 3. You go out and win game 3, you have an opportunity to tie the series in game 4, and you see what happens at that point. This is a joke. This is what I mean about Lakers fans. And bro, I don't know you that well, but we all know CP3 is the biggest choker in the playoffs. I hate injuries though, so I hope he gets better soon and is able to play in game 6 if necessary. My Lakers have come a long way. I feel like, and I'm gonna say this, and I just want everybody to hear this, and I'm gonna just be as direct as possible. I think Lakers fans are like Cowboys fans, are like Yankees fans. They're the least intelligent fan base in all sports. Things like this are so annoying, bro. He's playing his ass off in a game at 38 years old, and he tweaks his groin, but he's the biggest choker in the playoffs. Bro, shut up. Like that's annoying. It's so annoying when you don't like understand the game of basketball and you make comments like that. But the series is not over. I hope that CP3 gets back in the series. I doubt he will. I think that's all but done. But what you do need from the Phoenix Suns is you need some role players to step up. And specifically Cam Payne. Cam Payne looked good 2 years ago when he was in a rotational role with CP3. He played well. We were calling him CP15. And what he was doing when he was coming in for Chris Paul. What happened? He can still do that. He's going to start right in that starting role. Listen, TJ Warren's got to see the court more. I don't understand how he sits on the bench. It doesn't make logical sense to me. Role players play better at home. We'll see what happens in game 3. Any final comments before we move on next series?
No, I'd be really curious. I mean, I would hope Phoenix comes out, kind of like their life depends on Friday. I'd be really curious to see how the first quarter of that game goes.
I mean, good.
I was gonna say, you say role players play better at home, and I'm 100% behind you there. Denver's role players, for the most part, this past game, they didn't play that well, and neither did Jamal Murray. I think that's the one kind of thing that I would be kind of worried about if I was a Suns fan, because obviously we saw game 1 and how dominant the Nuggets were, but that was a big part of Jamal Murray being as dominant as he was. If Jamal Murray has a 25-point game and he shoots the ball well from the field, like I don't think that I think it'd be a tough uphill battle, and I think Chris Paul not being there will definitely see Jamal Murray's numbers go up.
All right, so let's move on to the Lakers versus Golden State Warriors. I'm not going to give those comments any more credence. So let's move on to Lakers versus Golden State. Game 1 was last night. AD 30 points, 23 rebounds. The Lakers win game 1. The inconsistency of Anthony Davis in this playoffs has been the highs and lows of the Los Angeles Lakers. I think if Anthony Davis goes out and gives you 30 and 23 every night, the Lakers are one of the toughest outs. But if you go through his last 6 games, it's 30, 12, 34, 14, 28, 16. Like, you can't have that. You have to be consistent in the NBA playoffs. If Anthony Davis does that, there's nobody on that. Golden State does not match up well with him at home. And what they at home, away, it doesn't matter. Does not match up well with Anthony Davis. Let's look at the paint. Let's start there. Kevon Looney can't stick him. He's not quick enough. His feet aren't quick enough. Draymond Green can't stick him. He's not big enough. So there's no real matchup for Anthony Davis on the court. And if he continues to dominate, and if they play Kevon Looney and Draymond Green on the court at the same time, Anthony Davis is just going to keep playing center field, and the Lakers are going to keep playing that 2-3 shell in which they're guarding the 3-point line, and Anthony Davis is playing free safety in the middle of the court. They're not respecting Kevon Looney's shot. They're not respecting Draymond Green's shot. And when both of them are court at the same time, you have 4 guys protecting the perimeter, and Anthony Davis just standing in the middle blocking shots. You have to play small ball, and you have to be able to run that Lakers team. Anthony Davis played every minute in the second half of that game versus Golden State last night. If they're playing small and running him up and down the court, he can't do that. You look at the 6-minute mark, AD is gassed. He was literally taking offensive possessions off because he was gassed. And that's how they got that 14-0 run to tie that game at 112. Now, D'Angelo Russell clutched down the stretch. Huge play. LeBron with the huge block. Anthony Davis with another block. Jordan Poole with the missed 3. I kind of want to start there. What were your thoughts on Anthony Davis, on Jordan Poole's shot? Do you like the shot selection? Do you not like the shot selection? Do you have an issue with it or no?
I'll say I don't have an issue with the shot. I didn't necessarily like the shot. There in that situation, you have Steph, and I get it. He got double team. You got Clay. You have all these other options, but I don't necessarily dislike it because that night Jordan Poole had one of the hotter hands. He had hit 5 threes already. The time was dwindling down. I get it. You have time to set something else up. At the time that he got the ball, it's about 8 seconds left, and he's open. We've seen Jordan Poole hit this kind of shot before. It'd be different if he was, trying to be the hero and things like that. But we've seen Jordan Poole hit this kind of shot before, not only in college but in the NBA as well. When he was at Michigan, he had a tournament game where he hit almost identical distance against Houston, game winner to send Michigan to the next round. I'm sure Bill remembers that. There's been times throughout this season where Jordan Poole has pulled ridiculous shots and we've seen it go in. So I don't think you can necessarily be mad with that kind of shot. Do I want a better shot? Absolutely. But I'm not mad with it. I can live with that because if it goes in, no one has an issue with it.
What's your thoughts, Charlie?
I agree with some of what Cottrell said. I think if the shot comes later, I don't have an issue with it. I think that was the one thing that, if anything, it bothered me a little bit. Steph got rid of the ball with around 12 seconds. Jordan caught it and kind of went up. I think at that point, you could probably try to run at least one more screen. With the ball in your hand at that point, you could run one more screen, try to get Clay or Steph off something. If it's not there, then you could take the shot. I just thought it was a little bit early, in my opinion.
At the moment of the shot, Jordan Poole was 6 for 10 from the 3-point line. I don't have any issue with it. I have zero issue with it.
Again, my only really issue with it is that it was early, and I think he caught it and shot it almost like he was out of time, where he could have took another dribble, really settled into a stroke, and took it. That was my only issue with it. It was rushed, and he didn't need to be rushed. I think if he's more comfortable and takes his normal shot and is aware of how much time's left, I think it's a better shot than he makes it. The kid's made clutch shots before. Cottrell mentioned the one when he was a freshman in the Houston game in the tournament. I don't have a problem with him being the one taking the shot. You got to know going on that court if you're Golden State that they're going to do everything in their power to not let Steph take that shot. So it's got to be Poole, or it's got to be Clay, it's got to be one of those guys that they sold out to make sure Steph couldn't. So he's one of those guys that down the stretch is going to have to make those shots in those situations to win games because God, teams are going to take away Steph. So
call it like it is. Darvin Ham outcoached Steve Kerr that game, and listen, Jarrett Vanderbilt. Give him credit, man. The guy followed when he was on the court. Steph Curry was 2 for 10, 1 for 5 from 3 when he was sticking him. He was following Steph around. He's got his cardio in. I'll give him all the credit in the world because he was a difference maker. Out of everybody in that game, outside Anthony Davis, the biggest difference maker on that court was Jarrett Vanderbilt. And 100%. Not for anything he did points wise. 2 for 7. I don't care what he did on points wise.
You mentioned Darvin Ham and him out coaching Steve Kerr. It was almost to the point where I thought he almost overcoached it. There was that point right before the Lakers went on that run. He made the sub, taking Vanderbilt out. He put D'Lo in, and I get it. You want some offense to kind of close up the game. But at that point, you were up, I believe they were up 12 or 14 when Golden State went on that run, and it got sparked by, back-to-back Steph buckets. And so at that point, I'm like, hey, I get it. You want D'Lo, you want the offensive presence on the court, but you got to put Vanderbilt back in the game because you can't let these guys get going, especially with that little bit of time left. So that'd be my only one pushback with it. But yeah, Ham definitely coached a great game up until that point. And then I think even at the end, the Lakers knowing, hey, Steph gets it up here. We got a double here. We're going to make somebody else beat us. And I'm sure that was definitely honed in the huddle beforehand. And so the Lakers knew that. So
I love that. I love that. You got to get the ball out of his hands. He was on fire when he had that drove the lane, handed it to Draymond, and then went back for the game tying 3.
Yep.
It was just like, wow, don't let him touch the ball again. He is just in one of those rhythms.
Yep.
And if he would have had the space to pull up from half court, he would have pulled up from half court.
Yeah, he found his rhythm late in the game. Up until that, he wasn't having a great game. It's, I think a lot of things went, in the Lakers' favor in that game, and they closed out and they won. I still think it goes 7. Again, does Anthony Davis have 5 more of those games in him, 4 more of those games in him? And does Golden State have another off shooting night? I think they're going to get a couple days rest here, coming off a tough 7-game series as well. I think that's going to help. I think Golden State will rebound, win game 2, and then we'll go back to LA, and I think it'll get interesting. But I think
it'll be split after 4. I think it'll be 2-2 after 4.
Yeah, I agree. I think again, we predicted 2 weeks ago. I said Golden State in 7. I still think that's where we're going. I think this ends up being another classic. It always is with a lot of these guys involved.
The last thing I just wanted to say on this series is that this series has me so confused about the direction that it's going for multiple reasons. So on the Lakers end, obviously you get AD's 30 and 20 game. We know that that's not going to be the normal for him just because he hasn't been able to consistently do it. LeBron in that game, to me, this was the first time that I really thought he looks like he's 38 years old. He looked like he had slowed down a bit, and he was settling for a lot of jumpers that I feel like that's not normal for him. We all know that his shot has not been on this back half of the season, and he's still just shooting threes and things like that. So I'm like, how far can this Lakers team really go if AD
has to drag them?
If AD has to be the man every single night, I don't know how far that Lakers team goes. But on the flip side of it, though, if I'm the Warriors, we hit 21 threes that game, and we still lost.
They shot 53 of them, though, bro.
I know. Yeah. I get it.
Like you shot 53 threes.
Threes are more than 2s, and the Lakers didn't shoot great from 3. So that would just be one of my things. And
Lakers
I get it.
Never shoot great from 3.
100%.
Not a 3-point shooting team.
100%. But my thinking would be, if we make 21 threes, and I get it, the percentage wasn't where you necessarily want it to be, because that's about 40% as a team, which still isn't bad for most teams. But if I'm the Warriors and we shoot 40% from 3, what else do I need to do to, have the advantage in this series? That kind of be where my mind is at. Obviously, Steph didn't shoot great, but who do you have to do that, though? I think putting Draymond on him is the way to do it.
Draymond has to figure out a way to stick him. Draymond has to figure out a way to get in his head. There has to get chippy. They have to get dirty. I'm just telling you the way it is.
I don't know what the actual statistics behind it was, but just for me watching the game, every time Draymond stuck AD did not want to go deep into the paint. He was kind of settling, things like that. So I'm curious to see how that matchup would go if
he starts missing
that was just
shots.
the thing.
Yeah. If he starts missing those fallaways that he was taking, like Draymond even said it on the mic'd up. He's like, I can't play you any better. If you've seen that, like AD made a ridiculous turnaround shot. He's like, I can't play any better defense there. Look, it's going to be a long series. We'll see. I think Draymond Green needs to be on it. I think they need to play a lot more small ball. I would love to see. Thank you for putting that. I would love to see Dante DiVincenzo and Gary Payton too get more run than they got this first game. But
see, the thing is, Gary Payton can't shoot though, so if that just adds on to the Lakers just sitting back and having two guys just basically play center field. So just things you got to find a way to control.
Understood. Let's move over to the East. Let's talk about the Miami Heat versus the New York Knickerbockers. The Miami Heat won game 1 in New York. Huge game. Jimmy Butler rolled his ankle. They gave him game 2 off. It was absolute insanity that the Miami Heat were winning game 2 in the middle of the fourth quarter. I think that the Knicks still win the series. I think the Heat have the worst roster that's in the playoffs. Just my personal opinion. But with that being said, got to give Caleb Martin his due. Got to give Max Strus. You got to give, Gabe Vincent their due. They had a great game as a whole. Just wasn't enough. Julius Randle back, Brunson. And, man, we have seen some big-time playoff performances from a lot of Knicks, but RJ Barrett has stepped up more than anybody on that Knicks roster.
Yeah, I mean, he started coming on, towards the end of the season, the last 10, 15 games. He started playing really well right before Julius Randle went down with his ankle, actually. They started giving him more minutes. He's finally healthy. That series is really intriguing to me. I think a lot of it is going to boil down to when can Jimmy get back on the court and be 85%? Is it a rolled ankle that was just swollen, a little bit sore, or is it a sprained ankle? Like I think you're gonna find out a lot in game 3 and game 4. If he's not healthy, I agree with you, Gene. I think the Knicks are just way too much. Then I think it's going to take another, heroic effort for Jimmy to get Miami through that round. If he's healthy and he can do it, I'm not going to doubt the guy. I mean, he's a dog. I mean, we've talked about it, time after time after time on the show. But I think the Knicks' depth, especially if Julius Randle is starting to get back to, what Julius Randle is. Jalen Brunson's still playing good. Josh Hart's has been an absolute godsend for the Knicks in that trade. And then like you said,
100%.
RJ Barrett is starting to kind of be the player that I think we all thought he was going to be when he got drafted a couple years ago. So
You're right.
It's coming in his own, a little bit of a late bloomer. If that's the case, then I think it's just going to take something otherworldly from Jimmy to get the Heat through there. But I think you'll know a lot to see if he plays game 3 or not. If he doesn't play game 3, then I think it's worse than they're letting on, and then I think Miami's in a lot of trouble.
I think he plays game 3. I think it's not as bad as you think it is, and I think the Knicks still win the series. There's too many players on that Knicks team, and there's just Jimmy Butler. I think you've seen all-world performances from Caleb Martin, Gabe Vincent, Max Strus that last game, and you're not going to see them again. And I get it. You're getting Jimmy Butler back. I just think the Knicks have a better overall roster. And to add to it, Emmanuel Quickley has been a ghost in this playoffs. You're talking about the runner-up for 6th man of the year, and he has been absolutely dreadful. Jalen Brunson, Josh Hart, Julius Randle back. I think the Knicks roll in this series. I really believe it.
Again, this is another series where I've been kind of back and forth on. If I was the Heat, I 100% would have sat Jimmy out game 2. At that point, you were kind of playing with house money. All you needed to do, I think, going into this series, the goal was obviously you want to win 2, but the goal is to split before you get back to Miami. And they got game 1, so I think not playing Jimmy in game 2 was very strategic, and I think it was smart. I agree with you, Gene. I don't think it's that serious. I think if that had been game 7, we would have saw Jimmy play. But again, you're playing with that house money in a sense, and now you give them 4 days off as opposed to 2, and you get back to Miami, and hopefully he's not going to be 100%, but hopefully that swelling and all that can go down, and he can get back to being as close to his normal self as possible. With that said, I really like this Heat team. I get it. I 100% agree with Eugene. I think this is a terrible, terrible roster, especially with the other 7 teams you have left. But Gabe Vincent has been playing really well as of late. I know that this isn't his normal, and I get it. He had a really good game last game, but Gabe Vincent has been very consistent for this Miami team, and they're fine. They're just finding ways to make it work. Duncan Robinson off the bench. I get it. He's hot and cold, but just a shooter for Jimmy to have. And then this Knicks team, the way that they play with Julius Randle and the way they play without him is just to me, it's really night and day. I get it. You know, people were making more shots in this past game. I like the ball movement a little bit better when Julius Randle's off the court. Obviously, the Knicks are a better team when Julius is playing, but I think the Heat are just going to be too much. And the Heat aren't afraid to play in Madison Square Garden either. Like, they're not afraid of the big lights. So I think the Heat find a way to win this series.
I got Knicks. You got the Heat. Shai, who you got in the series? Give us a final prediction.
I'm gonna go Knicks in 7. I would love to see Jimmy pull off another miracle. And, we kind of all low key root for him, but I agree. I think New York's depth and just I think their starting 5 is way better than Miami's starting 5 over the course of a 7-game series. I think it's just going to play out the way it's going to play out.
I love me some Jalen Brunson and Josh Hart. Give me those Villanova boys all day. Speaking of some hometown local boys, the Philadelphia 76ers went into Boston 10-point underdogs in game 1 and stole game 1. James Harden turned back the clock and was absolutely incredible. 45 points, including the go-ahead three-pointer with 10 seconds left on the clock, right in the face of Al Horford. Philadelphia 76ers steal home court. Game 2, the big man, the MVP, is back on the court. First reaction, do you think it's a smart move that the 76ers are playing Joel Embiid tonight?
I'm going to go with no. Same reason, same thing with Jimmy Butler and the Heat. I think you won game 1. You already got the split that you wanted. Give them those extra couple days, another extra couple days to rest, bring them back at home, and go from there. And especially, with the effort that you saw from Harden and Maxey and Tucker and all those guys, who's to say they don't go win game 2 without him? I would not have played him tonight. I think it's, there's a lot of good that can come from it. Obviously, if he plays and he's dominant and they go up 2-0 going home, that is a huge hole for Boston. I think it turns the tide a little bit if he does play and then Boston wins, and it's a mental thing. But if I was running the team, I would not have played him tonight.
Control?
Would I have played him tonight? No. Is this situation different from the Jimmy Butler's situation? 100%. The 76ers had the luxury of sweeping their first round opponent, and they had more rest than anyone else at this point. With Joel Embiid's injury, obviously, I don't know the medical standpoint of it, but he's had at this point about a week and a half, I would say, a little over a week, to get back on the floor. So I don't know what an extra 2 days for him, like how much that would benefit him to take. That's the only reason why I'm more okay with Joel playing tonight. Just because obviously it seems like it's a more severe injury. So an extra 2 days for him, I don't know how much that actually helps. And he's already gotten some rest. So I'm okay with Joel coming back tonight.
Can I tell you why it's a great idea that he's playing tonight? Because the 76ers are going to get their butts kicked tonight. And if you have any money that you can bet on the game, bet on the Celtics. They win the game by 15 plus tonight. You can book that. And I have no question in my mind that the Celtics absolutely destroy the 76ers tonight. But let me tell you why it's a great idea that he plays tonight. Because he is going to come back with ring rust and be rusty, and you need to get the bad game out of the way. You get that game out of the way because you can't afford him to come back ring rust in game 3 and lose game 3 at the first game he comes back. You can't afford it. Philadelphia needs to lose tonight, get all the ring rust out of Joel out, and then come back and win game 3 and game 4. And figure out a way to win one of those last 3. What's up, Key? But I think the 76ers get demolished tonight. Boston will be playing desperate. I think the spread says it all. 75% of money is on Philadelphia. They're 7.5, 8-point favorites at home for Boston. Boston beats them by 15 plus tonight. That game will not be close. I'm trying to let you guys all know now. If you want to put some money on it, you will win money. This is the easiest bet you will have an entire year. Boston wins tonight by 20 plus.
What I will say too, I 100% understand that James Harden had the caliber game that he had, 40 plus game in game one. I gotta give credit where credit is due. I don't think Doc actually coached a bad game in game one. So I'm always the one, I know most of us are, the one getting on Doc. So I do want to give him a little bit of credit there. And I almost wonder with this Celtics team, do they have a guy? Obviously, their coach, this is his first year being a head coach. Is he going to get on them to do what they need to do? I know they got behind Ime last year in his first year, but is their coach going to get it out of them this year? That's my big concern with the Celtics.
Brandon,
team.
the easy money is Boston minus 7.5. They cleared up by 10 points plus. I got Boston by 25. It's going to get more every time you ask me. Boston's going to destroy them tonight.
I agree, and I thought I agreed if Joel was playing or if he wasn't playing. I thought
so. Why not get the Joel ring rust out? Let him get his legs underneath him. This is not going to be a close game, so I'm okay with that. To me, it's like an exhibition game to get him ready for game 3. Shally, your thoughts?
No, I mean, like I said, I wouldn't play him. I do agree. I think Boston wins tonight.
I meant.
Yeah, Boston. I think Boston wins tonight. I'm not going to say by 25. The spread dropped all the way down to 7.5. Obviously, some of that is JoJo moving that, but I think it's a contested game. I don't think. I think you might get like a quarter or so of rust out of JoJo. I don't think you're going to get a full game out of him. So, I think he's going to be fine in the latter half of the game. I think it's a good game. I won't be surprised if Boston covers by any means. I don't think they're winning by 20 or 25 though.
I think you get JoJo 20 to 25 minutes tonight. You extremely limit his minutes. You get him game ready for game 3. I think that the emotion of him winning the MVP of the league will give him all the confidence that he needs. I think that he's going to start off. He's going to be shooting early. The one thing I absolutely love about this team, and I want to call every one of you guys out, you two, including you two. PJ Tucker is an absolute winner. And listen, is he worth $11 million a year in the regular season? No.
Nope.
Who are you calling out?
Everybody. Anybody that's been calling PJ Tucker cardio and not shooting and not worth the contract or this and that.
I'm a PJ guy.
I know, but I'm saying anybody, I've been hearing it from all ends, and I'm tired of hearing it. What PJ Tucker brought to that team, I don't care how many shots he took. What he brought to that team in game 1 is what that 76ers team has been missing the last 3 years. That is toughness. What he did to Paul Reed on that sideline after that Al Horford, that Boston got multiple offensive rebounds, and Al Horford got that layup. Tyrese Maxey said in the press conference, he said, I thought he was going to grab Paul Reed out of his jersey. He said, you better get these next 2 rebounds or we're going to have a conversation. I love that intensity. If you follow PJ Tucker's career, every team that man is on overachieves. Every single team, because he's willing to do the dirty, gritty things for that team to win, and he's tough. And he can guard anybody from the 1 through 4, 90 feet up the basketball court. And the hell that he brings to giving them, it's just, he's worth every penny to me. I don't care what he does in the regular season. Let me ask you guys a question. Would you say Jimmy Butler was a top 50 player in the NBA this regular season? I'd say no. He was terrible this regular season. But when it comes to the playoffs, he's a top 5 guy in the league. That's only 5 guys you want in the playoffs. Jimmy Butler's one of them. I don't care what you do in the regular season if your team's going to make the playoffs. And what PJ Tucker brings to a team is a toughness that has been missing from Philadelphia since Jimmy Butler left.
I agree. And I think it's funny because I know we talked about it last week, but seeing the way game 1 played out, and even with Joel's injury being the way that it is, I like this and this is me knowing that Joel is not 100%. I like the Sixers' chances more now, way more now than I did going into last week. I think that there's a good chance that with that Celtics team, I just don't know if I would love to see what their backbone looks like. Things are about to get tough for them. I want to see how they respond to the adversity.
Love it. We'll see. That's the NBA playoffs for you, gentlemen. MVP Joel Embiid. I need to make one comment on the MVP before we get in the NFL draft. I'm glad Joel Embiid won the MVP. I think that he deservingly won the MVP, and it's deservingly so. My one question that I have is this. It's nothing to do with Joel Embiid. I can do math. Nikola Jokic, Giannis, and Joel Embiid did receive 0 fourth or fifth place votes. 0. Well, Joel had 100 votes and Giannis had 100 votes, but Nikola Jokic had 99. That means someone left Nikola Jokic off their MVP ballot. I need that person arrested. Let's find him and arrest him. You don't deserve an MVP ballot if you're going to leave the guy off the ballot. Look, I'm not saying he should have won MVP. I think Joel should have won the MVP. But Joker can't be left off the damn ballot. I noticed it when I seen Tatum had 1 third place vote. And it's the person that voted for Tatum third place because there's no other way. The math didn't make sense. So I wanted to see if Jokic or Giannis or Embiid got that 4th place vote for Tatum getting that 1 third place vote. And I did the math and I added it up and I'm like, wait, Jokic only has 99 votes, which means someone voted for Tatum 3 and then 2 other guys 4 and 5.
I'll tell you, it's probably a Boston writer then.
It's embarrassing to me, man. That's embarrassing. He can't not be on your MVP ballot.
No, I agree. I mean, and again, I think if they have all, the 3 of them share all the first, second, and third place votes, I would tell you that's the way it should have been, because nobody else should have got a first place vote. Nobody else should have got a second place vote or a third place vote. Those are the top 3 guys.
Agreed.
You can't make a strong case for anyone else being in the top 3 other than those 3 guys this year.
Agreed. Completely agree.
Facts.
Let's move on to the NFL draft. Gentlemen, it was an absolute fun NFL draft. We had a great pre-draft last week. Did a good live stream with pregame and pigskin for the entire NFL draft. That was so much fun. There was a lot of first-round movement up and down, trades, cute picks that you just didn't expect. Jalen Carter falling to the Philadelphia Eagles at 9. I love that. Nolan Smith, who most Philadelphia Eagles fans would have had no problem with if they stayed pat and drafted him at 10, falls to the Philadelphia Eagles at 30. Philadelphia Eagles had a hell of a first round. I want to talk about a team that didn't have a very good first round, but I think they had a very good draft.
Go ahead,
say Detroit Lions.
Yep.
I think the Detroit Lions taking Jahmyr Gibbs at number 12 was the worst pick of the first round. That's not named Anthony Richardson. I think Anthony Richardson was the worst pick of the draft. It could possibly, because I think he's a 3rd or 4th round pick and he went 4th overall. But Jahmyr Gibbs going 12 is an absolute travesty to me. Now, where I think they made up for it, I think Jack Campbell's a perfect guy for their system. Even though he went 18 and he was drafted a little high, they got 2 guys in the 2nd round that if they just flip-flopped them, you take Hendon Hooker at 12 and Brian Branch at 18, and then take Gibbs and Campbell in the 2nd round. The draft looks great. There's no issues with it.
Facts.
But I kind of want.
And
yeah,
I was just going to say, it's funny you say that because I know we're going to go over kind of who we, winners, losers, whatever. That was going to be one of my teams. I was going to say a team that I thought absolutely lost the first round with the Detroit Lions, but as a whole, I mean, they got at the end of the day, they got 4 guys who I think can be. Well, they got 4. They got 4 guys that are going to be instant starters for him in Gibbs, Campbell, the tight end Laporta, which I was confused they didn't take Mayer, but that's fine if you had Laporta higher. And then Brian Branch. Those are 4 guys that are going to start for you day one, and I think Hendon Hooker can be your future. So I love their draft from what they did, and if you get your guys, then you get your guys. But 12 and 18, I couldn't believe they had 6 and Jalen Carter was in the palm of their hands and they didn't stand pat and take them. But I did like what the Lions did as a whole.
Also, I don't buy the talk, and I've heard this from, and it's funny, it's coming out of the Detroit Lions general manager's mouth. Oh, he wasn't making it past 15. There were so many teams calling up for Jameer. Shut up, man. That's what all GMs say. Howie Roseman said that when he drafted Jalen Reagor at 21. Like, stop it. Stop it. I wasn't making it past Arrow. We had teams calling us like, we couldn't believe you got, like, we were waiting on him. Like, stop.
The one thing that I will say, if you're playing all along that hey, we don't need, because they were up at pick 6. So obviously you're not taking Jameer there. So you're like, hey, I need to trade back. If you don't get Jameer at 18 and that was your plan all along, then you're stuck with your hand in the cookie jar at that point. I get it.
Why
you
not
have other prospects
and
there.
just take Bijan if you really want to take a running back?
Because I'm saying if you value what Jameer does,
you value Jameer over Bijan in what?
No. I understand that you could think Bijan is a better player, but the Lions might have said, hey, we're looking for a guy that fills the shoes of Jameer. And if we can trade back and get more capital, that's what we want to do. Like, yeah, we could take Bijan at 6, 100%. But if I think Jahmyr Gibbs is not that far off of Bijan and I can get an extra second round pick, I'm going to do that 10 times out of 10, if that's the mindset of that GM. So you can't trade back and then not take Jahmyr. If you're going to take Jahmyr at 18, you might as well took him at 12. That's what I'm kind of getting at.
I understand what you're saying, but
I think it was the wrong pick too, but I get the thinking behind it.
Okay. Shally.
No, I mean, I don't disagree with, anything any one of you guys said. I mean, just apparently, I heard the Tennessee GM comment that there was a couple teams that contacted them about, and one of those teams apparently wanted to draft them. Apparently, a lot of teams evaluated them and had them very close. I'm talking about Bijan and Jahmyr Gibbs, obviously. Again, like you said, is it all just smoke and whatever? But it's come out from a couple sources that teams are trying to move up to get him. I don't think they thought he was going to go that early, but I think a lot of guys see what he does and they think it could translate to the NFL level. I think you could have got him later. I wouldn't have picked him there. I agree with both of you, but I think the end justifies the means kind of with Detroit. Like you said, at the end of the day, if you look at the first 2 days of the draft, they're going to be extremely happy with what they got. So, I mean, at the end, 10 years from now, it doesn't really matter what round they were picked in. So, if all 4 guys become good pros, then I mean, it ends up being an amazing draft for that organization. So,
what team do you think made the worst pick in the first round outside of that Jahmyr Gibbs pick?
I agree with you. I wouldn't take Anthony Richardson at number 4. I think to draft somebody number 4 with a team that is still, kind of in the middle towards the end of a win now window and draft a quarterback that I think is going to struggle horribly if he plays as a rookie. I don't get it.
Their liquored up owner already said he'll learn by playing. So
yeah, they did say he's gonna play right away. So don't know why you would do that.
The most puzzling thing to me and what would make the most sense was the Green Bay Packers going Lucas Van Ness at 13. I would 100% have taken Dalton Kincaid there, gave my young quarterback a weapon, and Green Bay always puzzles me with their first round. They never want to give the offense any weapons. They always want to go on the defensive side of the ball. It's just it's frustrating to watch, but it is what it is. That's the Green Bay Packers. That's what they do. Also, I think that the Jacksonville Jaguars had an absolute awful draft as a whole. And this is not just a first round thing. I think they reached on almost every one of their players. They had a ton of picks, and they end up leaving the draft with 2 to 3 starters out of 11 picks. I just didn't make much logical sense to me.
A pick that didn't make much sense to me, and they were talking about it on the draft broadcast. I'm 100% fine with the talent. I think Jordan Addison is going to be a great player. The Vikings taking him when they don't have anyone in their secondary was definitely puzzling to me. Like I said, I 100% to get the talent grab, but you don't have anybody in your secondary, and you're going to be trotting out who knows who on the back end there. So I was definitely confused seeing the Addison pick there.
Talk about confusing, though. The Seattle Seahawks drafted Jackson Smith and Jigba to be a slot receiver, and then in the second round drafted Zach Charbonnet when they have Kenneth Walker. When they have so many holes on their interior of the defense, they couldn't stop you from running the ball up the middle last year.
Yeah, I mean,
I get it, but who do you reach on though?
What do you mean? What do you mean reach on?
I mean, in the first round, I don't think where they
I
were
would
at.
have took Jalen Carter as opposed to Devin Witherspoon at 6.
Okay.
At 7.
Okay.
Or 5. Sorry.
I more so meant at 20.
So at 20, you can do a lot of different things. Listen, I would have took Brian Breesy if I had to over Jackson Smith and Jigba. They don't need us. They got Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf, and they can't stop the run.
Tyler Lockett's no spring chicken, though.
We're drafting to replace a top 25 receiver in the NFL when we can't stop the run.
That's a stretch.
And in the second round, they took Zach Charbonnet when they have Kenneth Walker. Where does that make any logical sense?
I think that's the difference with Minnesota. Like I at least somewhat understand it. While they had bigger needs, they lost Adam Thielen, Jordan Addison. You need somebody to pair with Jefferson. So I mean, that at least makes sense on paper. Obviously, there's they picked 21 or whatever they were, 22. I don't think 24. I don't think there was anybody on the board that they looked at as being maybe an absolute game changer in the secondary. So they went with value and another weapon on the offense. That one at least makes a little bit more sense to me than like Gene said. I mean, I don't know how you. I think they're both very good players, obviously, with who they drafted. I just don't know if they make your team better in the sense that Charbonnet is going to be the second string back in Kenneth Walker.
Yeah.
And then Jigba's obviously going to play, but it's like, there's only so many balls to throw around to 3 guys. And if you're giving up 30 every game, what the hell's the difference?
Completely agree with you.
I mean, I'm okay with it in the sense of you get the best corner and you get either the best or the second best receiver in the class. The Charbonnet pick, I can't justify that. You in the second round, you use your second round pick on a guy to be your second string running back. Like I won't ever justify that. But they did get the kid out of Auburn on their D line because they had 2 second round picks. So their other second round pick, they did address a need at edge there. So I don't hate it. I'll say that. And they got the center from Michigan too. That's probably going to come in and start center for him.
He's probably a steal. But again, I mean, if you're relying, he went in the 5th round. I mean, if you're relying on your 5th round to make your draft look good, then I mean, you probably messed up somewhere before that.
I mean, they got an outside linebacker. It still doesn't. You're talking about the kid from Auburn. They took Derek Hall. It's outside linebacker. He's not going to. How much is he going to help support your run defense up the middle?
Man, he's going to play edge. He's an edge guy.
Okay,
yeah, but the middle of their defense is beyond soft.
I get
they couldn't stop anybody running the ball last year. They were the worst run defense in football.
I swear they made a move. I thought they signed someone in free agency.
I'm going to read it to you, right? I want you to try to help me understand. Draymond Jones, Brian Monet, Jaron Reed is their starting defensive line right now on their depth chart. Darrell Taylor, Jordan Brooks, Bobby Wagner, who they got back in the middle linebacker, and they have Devin Bush backing him up. Their defensive line might be the worst defensive line in football. It's terrible.
I mean, I get it. I think Draymond could be a big pickup for them, better than what they had last year.
Okay.
Obviously getting Bobby back and you bringing in Devin Bush. I get he's not a run stopping linebacker, but I think the defense can look better. Yeah, they still have holes on the D line, but I think the defense will look better.
There wasn't a more cocky pick than Jake Moody going in the 3rd round to the San Francisco 49ers. You want to talk about a team that's just saying, we don't have any needs.
Let's just take the best pick in the draft.
What was their biggest weakness last year on defense? Second corner. It's terrible. Charvarius Ward was their corner. Keely Ringo is sitting there for you in the third round, and you took a kicker. I think that's like watching a fantasy football draft, and you're like in the 6th round of the fantasy football draft, and the guy goes, "I'll take Tucker."
There's always one. There's one in every draft.
Every draft, it happens all the time, and everyone's like, "What are you doing? How in the world do you take a kicker in the 3rd round?"
I think if you're the 49ers and you're in a position where you didn't think you really had any holes, or they're also that team that they're not afraid to go out and make a trade during the season and bringing in a guy. So if they thought Jake Moody could go out and steal them some points this season, then I don't like it in the 3rd round, but I also get it.
Listen, I mean, he is the best kicker in the draft. Like, don't get me wrong.
No.
He's not worth a 3rd round pick. I mean,
Third
round picks carry a lot of value. A lot of like really good NFL players that come out of the 3rd round. So that was a little wild to me. I was glad to see him drafted and go to a very good team. That is I don't know what their thinking was, or if they weren't going to get him in round 5 or 6 or something. But I mean, that was a shock to hear that name called. I actually, when I heard it, no, honestly, you know what I did when I heard it before they said like kicker, like University of Michigan, I was like, oh, there's another dude named Jake Moody in the draft. Like that's really what I thought. I was like, oh, there's probably like a lineman or something. Like I was like, oh, it's another Jake Moody. That's cool. And they're like, no, kicker. I was like, wild.
I actually think the Bengals did pretty good in the draft, if I'm being honest with you.
They had a low-key good draft.
I think that a lot of people are undervaluing the picks that they made. They needed a corner. They went out and got DJ Turner out of Michigan. They needed a safety. They went out and got Jordan Battle out of Alabama. They needed a guy to play opposite of Hendrickson. They went out and got Miles Murphy out of Clemson. I'm not a Miles Murphy guy, but the value they got where they got him, I'm okay with that.
You're talking value, and I agree with you. Value, what he's going to probably produce. I think, I think you look at that pick in a couple years and you like it. I think DJ Turner has a chance to be a star with how fast he is. Nobody's going to run by that kid. I think he's got to get a little more physical at the line to play in the NFL. But I think he has the ability to be, make a Pro Bowl here and there once or twice in his career. And Jordan Battle, I think he's the weaker of the 2 safeties at Alabama, but. Again, going in, slot him into
captain though.
Exactly. Slot him into a very veteran-laden defense that the Bengals have, and I think he has the ability to be a starter, week 1 and contribute. I don't think he's not going to hurt you by any means. He's a smart player. The difference between him and Branch is the better athlete. They're both very smart safeties. Branch is just has a higher ceiling because he's a better athlete.
Gotta give. I'm sorry. I was just going to give the Pittsburgh Steelers credit too.
That's exactly where I was going. I was going to say the Bengals, I did like their draft. I thought with their 1st round pick, I thought they were going to go Mayer there with him sliding. I thought that you bring him in, he's going to help you out in the run game and be another weapon for Joe Burrow. I thought that would be the direction that they went. But with their team, I'm okay with Miles Murphy there because he's a guy who's going to come in, do his job, and he doesn't have to be the guy. They got Trey for that. So I'm good with that pick for them. But Pittsburgh Steelers definitely had a very, very good draft as well. They traded up right before the Jets to get Broderick Jones, left tackle for the future there for Kenny Pickett.
And the Jets
2nd round, you got
after that. They panicked.
Yeah, they did. Yeah, they did. And then 2nd round comes and you get Joey Porter that fell right in your lap, So I think in a different world, if the Jets had moved up and got Broderick, the Steelers probably would have stood patted. I think they were at 18. They might have took Joey Porter off the board there. So I think that was great value for that Steelers team. I thought the AFC North as a whole had it great. And the Browns, not so much just because they had later picks. I thought they got good value, but they're not in this conversation. I like what the Ravens did as well. Getting Zay Flowers, getting another weapon for Lamar Jackson.
I hate that. Out of all the receivers, I think he's the worst one for that team. I'm not saying he's the
I
worst
think-
receiver. I just think being that unpolished, playing with that quarterback, I just feel like it's bad news waiting to happen.
The only reason,
But I think that situation though is going to be good for him because he doesn't have to go in and right away be a number one receiver. So I think it gives him time to kind of develop. And I don't know if I haven't seen any other reports besides AB's crazy self tweeting about being on the
he ain't playing
Ravens.
on that team,
But
he's more unsignable than Dylan Brooks is.
You're right.
You have some guys there that can kind of help mold Zay Flowers. So I like what they did.
I like that pick. And the only reason I'm going to say this is I think you're going to see him run a lot of the same things they ran with Hollywood Brown. And if Hollywood Brown didn't drop the ball every third time it was thrown to him, his numbers would have been crazy. I think you're going to see a lot of that with Zay Flowers. I think you're going to see a lot of OBJ and what's his face? Bateman doing a lot of the over the middle stuff and possession stuff. And I think you can kind of just let him, learn on the fly. There's not going to be a ton of pressure on him.
The one thing I will give Baltimore credit from, and I know you guys know this, and there's a lot of people that don't get it, that don't watch the sport. Being a wide receiver in a warm weather team, in a dome team, and being a wide receiver in a cold weather team, is a totally different thing. They got Rashad Bateman out of Minnesota. They got Odell Beckham Jr. who played in New York and Cleveland. And they have, Flowers out of Boston College, Zay Flowers out of Boston. These guys are all prepared to play in cold weather situations, and I understand that.
Cold weather is not going to bother them.
I think there are two, and the last thing I'll talk about the first round, I think there are two teams that absolutely panicked because
before you get there, just one thing, I just want to throw it in since we're talking about the Ravens. I love they got Trenton Simpson in the third round. I thought that was absolute steal. Thought he was the second best one. I had him third. I think I had him slated third, but I thought he was the third best linebacker in this class. And for you to get a guy like that in the third round on that Baltimore team and him being the freak athlete that he is, it's going to be wonderful.
The day after the draft, they declined Patrick Green's 5th-year extension.
I mean, you look at
what does that tell you?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, you look at Baltimore's, top skill guys. I mean, it matches up with anybody's, man. I mean, you're going to go Lamar, you're going to have a healthy J.K. Dobbins, Mark Andrews, and then OBJ, Bateman, and Zay Flowers. I mean, it's a lot of talent, man. It's a lot of talent there. That is, if they keep their defense healthy and everything else, I mean, they're going to be a very good team. I would not, AFC North is going to be it's going to be a battle again this year.
Two teams that absolutely panicked, and I think it's both because teams that jumped up and picked right before them is the New York Jets. I think they absolutely made a panic pick at 15, taking Will McDonald. I think they were 100% taking Broderick Jones, and the Steelers jumped right in front of them and took them. They need to address that offensive line for Aaron Rodgers, because if Aaron Rodgers isn't healthy, that team's still going to be in the basement. And the other team that absolutely panicked, the Dallas Cowboys. I think they had Dalton Kincaid written on their board. And when Buffalo traded up right in front of them and took Kincaid, they took Mozzie Smith. Listen, great run stuffers. Going to help that team out a ton. They're already transitioning Micah Parsons to be a 3-down line defensive end. They're no longer playing him at linebacker. He is going to be an edge rusher D end for them. They're making a very concise effort to make sure they stop the run this year. That's what Dallas is doing this offseason. But you lose Dalton Schultz, and you have an opportunity to replace him with a Dalton Kincaid. And I'm shocked. I think both those teams panic picked.
I disagree with the Cowboys, because if the Cowboys wanted to go tight end, they still could. I mean, they may have even had Michael Mayer higher on their board. So I don't think it was like crazy panic there. And Micah Parsons he was on one of the shows, and he had said he had conversations with Dan Quinn about wanting them to take Mozzie. He knew that Mozzie was a guy that was high on their board. So I don't necessarily think that was a panic pick. I think he was 100% on their radar. But I agree with the Jets. So I think the Jets was 100% a panic.
The Jets definitely did. I don't think I think that you probably get somebody go on the record from the Jets saying that they did. The Dallas one confused me a little bit because the one thing I will say, they don't necessarily always coach well or play well. They are a team, especially with being in our division, we pay attention to them every year. They usually draft very well. We've gone over it before when we first started the show about the move they made to jump in front of us to get CD Lamb. They're usually their front office is usually pretty well put together, and they make good decisions. I think Kincaid is the type of tight end that they wanted for that offense. I don't think they want they wanted more of a guy that could stretch the field like a Travis Kelce, and they wanted Kincaid. And I agree with Gene. I think when they moved up and took him out of nowhere, I think that is 100% who they're going to take. Mozzie Smith's a really nice fallback. I think he's going to be a very good pro. I think he'll do his job. He'll be very serviceable. Probably like a 10-year career type guy. But I do agree with Gene a little bit. I think Kincaid was their guy. I think they wanted him to really help bolster that offense and give them a different kind of weapon, than they've had in the past. Okay. I'm shocked nobody's brought up Houston.
I love what Houston love.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, if anybody had as good a draft as the Eagles, I think it was Houston. For them to take CJ Stroud and then turn around and get right back up and take Will Anderson, I thought that was wild.
As a whole, no. Eagles killed it from day 1, day 2, day 3, and then they doubled, tripled, quadrupled down on it and got some great UDFAs. So as a whole, no. But I mean, I think Houston had an unprecedented first round. Obviously, I said it on my Twitter too. I think what the Eagles did with their value, getting Jalen Carter and Nolan Smith is absolutely incredible. But for all intents and purposes, the Texans got whatever way you slice it. They got 2 of the top 4, top 5 guys in this year's class, at least projection wise. So for them to do that, and all the reports before was like, hey, they're getting Will Anderson at 2. They're getting Will Anderson at 2. Right before the draft, it was like, hey, they're actually taking CJ Stroud, and then them to come out and get both of them, absolutely crazy. And that's how you turn a franchise around, making moves like that. You get your leader on defense, and then you get your quarterback. So I love what the Texans did.
I agree with you with the Eagles and their undrafted free agents also. So I'm not there's a lot of guys they brought in, including Eli Ricks. I think Eli Ricks and Keely Ringo could be your starting cornerback pairing in 3 years from now.
They got another UDFA too. That was I was like, whoa, I didn't even realize that he went undrafted. Let's see if I can find it here. Eagles UDFAs. But as a whole, they had a phenomenal
draft. The Eagles did a great job. And the reason I shook my head a little bit when you said the Houston Texans is I'm not saying that getting the best player in the draft and getting your franchise quarterback is by any means a bad draft. It's just that team has so many holes, and they give up a lot of draft capital to get. They had the quarterback. They gave up a lot of draft capital to get Will Anderson. And Will Anderson is the best player in the draft, by all means. I get it. But you gave up a second, a first, a third to move back up to that spot to get Will Anderson. So it's a lot to do. It's a lot to move up to that spot. You gave up number 12, which is what it is. That's a first, but that's what you were going to draft Will Anderson. You gave up a second this year, who they could have drafted another impact player, a first and a third. It's a lot. It's a lot to give up for a team that's not good. So right now, currently, as it's constructed, the Arizona Cardinals are projected to have picks 1 and pick 2 next year.
Well, that's the thing, though. They gave up their pick, but they still have a first round pick next year, which is why I'm slightly okay with what they did. They do. They have Cleveland's pick. So I'm slightly okay with what they did because of that. If they didn't have any first round picks and they knew they were about to be, absolutely horrible next year, then I'd say, I have some more concerns there, but you still get a first round talent. You still get a first round talent next year, so I'm okay with it. The other
picking at 3.
Agreed. But the other UDFA that the Eagles signed that I think has a chance to make the team, he won't be an impact player for you because you guys are too deep at the position. Joseph Nada out of Clemson. That's gonna be a guy I think that can make the 53, and down the road maybe get some snaps for you.
Okay. Well, any other draft comments you guys want to get in before we move on to UFC?
None that I could think of. No. Atlanta picking Bijan.
Terrible.
Definitely surprised
Terrible
me.
pick.
Definitely
It's an
surprised
awful
me.
pick. Bad teams do bad things. Now they have a
Yeah.
bad quarterback and they have a overdrafted running back with a defense that can't stop anybody.
An offensive line that's not
Correct.
great. I mean, their O-line was decent last year. Tyler Algier ran for 1,000+ yards last year, so definitely was a very confusing pick. That's for sure.
We talked about it last night at the field. I'll talk about it again now. You can't take Bijan Robinson at 8 when you have all those needs. You can't do it.
Yep.
Too many needs to take a luxury, and a running back is a luxury pick.
It is. I mean, Atlanta is just notorious for doing that. Like if it's they
Kyle Pitts.
Yeah, they take who they think the best player is available at that position. A little bit of a head scratcher, especially when I really don't think anybody in that building is convinced that Desmond Riddler is the next coming of Matt
The
Ryan.
Riddler. I like
Riddler is the next coming of anybody that is going to help that team win a Super Bowl. So with quarterbacks on the board there, I think they could have went with, or if you really didn't like anybody, or there was too much talent left on the board.
What would make sense for the Atlanta Falcons? Arthur Smith goes out and gets Ryan Tannehill from Tennessee. Tennessee's looking to move on from Tannehill to begin with. They have the money to be able to take his cap in this year. He's already familiar with Arthur Smith's system. He goes over there and is a 1-year stopgap and can try to reinvigorate his career in Atlanta. And you get Will Levis to start. Correct.
And the Falcons can try and get Caleb or Drake next year, or one of the other quarterbacks coming out next year, because Desmond Ritter's not your answer.
Definitely. So I called that on draft night. I told you that as soon as I watched that college football playoff game versus Alabama. The happy feet, the scared off his back foot stuff. It's just you've seen it right away. It was so obvious. I don't know how NFL scouts missed it, but
and especially in Atlanta, I think if you put him in a good situation where he has a ton of weapons around him, I think he could be a game manager in the NFL. But you don't make game managers your franchise quarterback.
Facts.
So
spitting facts. Let's move on to the UFC. We got a card, Cinco de Mayo card. Aljamain Sterling versus Henry Cejudo.
Triple C.
And then the one fight that's not on here that we 100% are going to have to talk about, Bilal Muhammad is going up against Gilbert Burns.
I thought there was like an injury that caused these guys are just ridiculous. They're crazy. We just signed the fight 14 days ago. They're like, whatever. Dude, Gilbert Burns just fought on 287.
Gilbert, it makes a little bit more sense to me because he came out of that fight pretty much unscathed, and at that point he had to cut weight again. For Bilal to take that, and apparently, coming into this week, he still had half his weight to cut. Like it's gonna be a tough week for him. I mean,
Gilbert Burns said, "I am not taking another fight unless it's a title fight." And 2 weeks later, he's fighting again. How does that happen?
I don't know. I think it's like.
Did we not hear that? Am I the only one that heard that interview? Like, I've done all I need to do. My next fight will be for the title. Week later, I'm going to fight Bilal Muhammad.
Look, I see Dylan in the comments, man. I just want everybody to know Gilbert Burns is taking out Bilal Muhammad, and hopefully that's the end of him. I hate watching Bilal Muhammad fight. I'm rooting for Gilbert here. It's about to be a big Gilbert win, and Gilbert's going to be next in line for a title shot after Kobe.
See, that's the part that surprises me is like rush this fight, take this fight on short notice to win, knowing that you're still sitting behind Kobe. Like that. I mean, I guess it gives you the guaranteed shot, but I mean, Kobe and Leon are not fighting till later in the summer, so that fight's probably not happening until 2024. Like that.
I mean, you still can sit on it though.
You can, but I'm saying you're going from one extreme to the other. Like, you're going from fighting, a month or not even a month ago to turn around fighting now. and then you're going to sit for like 10 months. Like that's the part that's interesting to me. But I mean, you listen. I mean, you want guys that want to get in there, bang, and fight and want it that bad. More credit to both of them. I just think it's gonna be a very tough week for Bilal. They said he came in, he took the fight, and he had still half his cut to go as of Monday. So I mean,
Right. Bryce
I don't.
Mitchell's not on this card either. Like, there's so many guys that
Nope,
dropped out.
he just
Yep.
dropped.
I don't think Bilal is going to be cardio wise 100% on Saturday night. So I think that's going to be very interesting to see how that plays out.
It's so crazy for a fight that has that much meaning
Agreed.
and with such short, like, just like the camp. What's the camp? Like, like, what's the preparation for these fighters? Like, I don't.
Well, the one thing with Bilal has been training. Bilal had joked and said he had 44 pounds to cut. His trainer came out afterwards and said that was, they were kind of just joking about that, and he's kind of had the opportunity to make this a normal cut for him. So I don't think Bilal will have any issues getting down to the weight. I think his stamina will be as normal as possible for him. With Gilbert, I know he didn't take that much damage in the last fight, but you're still going up against, a top 5, top 6 guy in the division. And, Jorge's no slouch. You might not take that much damage, but you just got hit in the face and in the body multiple times by Jorge Masvidal. So I don't get why you make it so fast, but this card was begging for co-main. So I'm
Oh, I
okay with
know,
it.
because if it was Jessica Andrade versus Jan, listen, I'm gonna tell you something right now. You guys know how in the women's MMA, and you guys know how much I don't like Jessica Andrade. Jessica Andrade is going to run through that girl so easily. I don't know if you guys know this, but Yan Jian, she got knocked out by Carla Esparza. I just stop for a minute, right? I don't think if you gave Carla Esparza a baseball bat, she could knock me out. Have you watched Carla Esparza fight? She's the least threatening fighter I've ever seen in my entire life. I love Carla Esparza. You know I'm a Cookie Monster fan. If you gave her a baseball bat and a hammer, I don't think she could knock me out. It's the fact that this girl got knocked out by Carla Esparza. Jessica Andrade is going to run through her like a hot knife through butter. I don't know why. I think Dana White, and I love the fact that women's MMA has taken off to the fact to the avenue that it has. But you don't have to make every co-main event or third fight in every card has to have. You don't have to do this. Jessica Andrade doesn't belong here.
The other thing with Jessica Andrade is that I swear she's fought like 5 times in the past 7 months. Like, I feel like every other card, it's like, we're going to throw Jessica Andrade on here. We're going to throw Jessica Andrade on here. So, I mean, if she wants to keep fighting, I understand it.
Fought
But
in January, she fought in February. I mean, you're right. She beat Lauren Murphy
card
in January. She lost to Erin Blanchfield in February. She lost on a fight night that they just threw on. And I'm not a Jessica Andrade, like, I'm not a fan of hers at all. But you can't, in any world, I can't understand how Yan Jian beat Mackenzie Dern in a 5-round decision on a fight night. And that was her catapult to get in this fight, because Mariana Rodriguez beat the crap out of her, and Carla Esparza knocked her out. She's lost 2 of her last 3 fights, and she's sitting as the 3rd fight versus Jessica Andrade. Like, what are we doing? UFC, what are you doing?
This card definitely lacked the heavy hitters, but one fight that I did want to highlight: Kron Gracie making his return to the octagon. He's been gone for 4 years. Fighting Charles Jourdain, who was in a banger late last year with Hurricane Shane. That's gonna be a great fight. Obviously, the last name. He comes from the Gracie lineage. He's gonna be fun to watch. I don't know why he was gone for 4 years, but I remember watching him in 2019, and I think he could be a talented prospect in the UFC. So that's probably the second fight that I'm most excited to watch on this entire card.
Why? Anybody know why Doug Nasty pulled out? Why Bryce Mitchell pulled out?
Undisclosed injury.
I think he didn't realize who he was fighting. I really believe that. I don't think he knew who Mavsar was, and I think he was like, "Yeah, I'll take the fight," and then seen the fact that he was going to get beat up, and was like, "I can't lose another fight," and then undisclosed injury came out. I'm not kidding with you. I think that's what happened.
Bryce isn't that kind of guy.
Bro, that's a bad dropout.
Bryce just fought. Bryce just got beat up in his last fight by a guy who we knew was going to beat him up.
That's my point. He can't afford to lose another fight. I don't know. This card is suspect at best. Dana White needs to, if I was the UFC, I would cut the price in half, sell it for $35.
So apparently, I just looked it up. Bryce Mitchell, they were filming Embedded, the UFC Embedded series, and I guess there were some videos about he had some mysterious skin blotches on his body.
Okay.
And a day later, they pulled him from the fight. So it'll probably come out exactly what it is because there's footage of it. So
I feel bad for Diego Lopez. I give him all the credit in the world. He's stepping in there versus Mavsar, but that's not like that's a walkthrough. Just add that to your parlay.
It's been a week of being bad weaker injuries. I mean, and then the next pay-per-view, Pena's now hurt, so she dropped out of the Nunez fight. So,
and how long ago did Charles Oliveira drop out versus Beneil Dariush?
He didn't necessarily drop. Well, I mean, he did drop out. I think they were supposed to be on this card. They're going to be on 289. So it wasn't a terrible.
It was a minor. There's a minor injury, so they just rescheduled.
They moved it back just a little bit.
1 month.
That's going to be a fight I can't wait to watch. Beneil Dariush versus a Charles Oliveira. You want to talk about next level jiu-jitsu? Oh my god!
Yep.
Might just be a grappling match. It'll be fun to watch.
All right, so let's give our
100%.
picks on the two main fights. I'm going Gilbert Burns. I think Gilbert Burns wins. I know Dylan's a Bilal Muhammad guy.
He is. That's
I respect
why
it. Bilal Muhammad is listen. Bilal Muhammad has an absolute point that he deserves a title shot over Kobe. 100% has a point. He hasn't lost in forever. He keeps taking out everybody in his path. Who was he supposed to? He's fought somebody that was supposed to be the next up and coming, and he just desecrated him. I forget the guy's name.
His last fight, he fought why can't I think of his name right now?
I'll get it for you.
But it was his last fight, and he finished him.
Destruction. Oh, Vicente. Well, no. Sean Brady.
No,
Sean Brady.
Sean Brady.
Yeah. And then he beat Luque. I think he's won his last 4 fights. And then they had the no contest versus Leon Edwards 3 years ago.
But I mean, of the top guys in welterweight, he hasn't fought those guys. And I'm not saying Kobe has, I'm not excusing that. But Sean Brady was his first big, and he had some quality wins before that. Vicente, I'm not saying he's nobody, but at the time that he beat him, he was probably ranked 8th or 9th. At the time that he beat Stephen Thompson, he was probably ranked 8th or 9th, 10th, somewhere around there. Time that he beat Damian Maia was probably like 13, 12, 11 in that range. So that's all I'm saying. Those are quality wins, but you got to beat who's towards the top of the division at the time that they're at the top. Like him beating Gilbert Burns, I think that'll put him in the position to get that title.
So who you like in the fight? You like Gilbert Burns also?
I do. I like Gilbert. I think Gilbert submits him.
Really?
Ooh.
Third round.
That's a huge. I got Gilbert in a 4-1 decision.
I don't know if it'll be a 5-round fight. I don't know if they've
co-main event.
It's a 5-round fight.
I know it's a co-main, but they don't always make the co-mains if they're non-championship
fights. It's a 5-round fight. The reason I know that is because I was reading about it, and that's when they were making a big deal about his conditioning and him being able to go 25 minutes or not. It's definitely a 5-round fight. I like Gilbert Burns as well, though. I think Gilbert Burns. I'll go 4th round TKO.
I think Gilbert's gonna get a knockdown, and I think at that point he jumps on top of Bilal and submits him.
Okay, so we all have Gilbert Burns. I'll go last on this one. Henry Cejudo versus Aljamain Sterling. I think you guys know who I'm going with anyway. Henry
Oh
Cejudo
yeah,
versus
100%
Aljamain
know who
Sterling.
you're going with.
This is a pick 'em. 115, 105. This is basically all but a pick 'em.
Look, I think this fight comes down to who's going to out wrestle who. This is going to be a wrestling match. If you're not a fan of watching UFC fighters wrestle, don't watch the main event. Don't pay for this card. And I don't know how you can pick against Henry Cejudo in a wrestling match. I don't care how many years he's had off. The guy is just a world-class wrestler. So I'm rolling with Triple C in this one. I think it's a UD for him. I don't think he submits Aljamain, but
knock him out.
I think Henry decision win.
You're going against your boy.
See, the thing is, Aljamain's not my boy. Just because I pick him in fights doesn't make him my boy.
I'll tell you right now, Henry Cejudo is going to knock him out.
I got Triple C as well. I mean, I think a lot of people are making a lot about the whole 3-year off. We just saw John Jones come back from a little over a 2-year absence and just walk through Cyril Gane. So I think the one thing I guess I would concern me a little bit is, and I have to give Aljamain Sterling credit in this aspect, is he's looked a little bit better every fight. Each and every fight, he looks a little bit better when he gets in the cage. But I agree with Cottrell. Henry Cejudo, as long as he's in shape, and obviously he came back and took this fight for a reason, so he's obviously motivated. He's a world class grappler. He's on a different level. I think he wins. I think he stops the fight as well. I don't think the fight goes the distance. I like 3rd or 4th round TKO, ground and pound, same kind of thing. And I think he takes one of his belts back, and hopefully he stays around for a while.
I got Henry Cejudo, 3rd round TKO. I think that he's the better grappler, and I think Aljamain is not as good a striker. So I think Henry's better everywhere. So I'll take Henry Cejudo, 3rd round TKO. I think the only reason the odds on this fight are even, I think it's a gift, is because Cejudo hasn't fought for 3 years. I think it's an absolute gift for you. Henry Cejudo, 3rd round TKO.
I wouldn't say I think it's a gift, only because if I don't see a way that Aljamain gets knocked out, because I don't think I think we'll see this fight on the feet less than 5 minutes of the 25-minute
Well,
fight.
that's how TKOs happen, when somebody gets you in a very good position, grounds and pounds you're facing.
Okay.
On the ground.
How did TJ Dillashaw get knocked out by him? How did Marlon Moraes get knocked out by him? How did Dominic Cruz get knocked out by him?
TJ got knocked out because he didn't have an arm to fight back.
That's fair. My point being is
my shoulder.
Look, I have zero love for TJ Dillashaw, so I can't stand him. So it is what it is. But
yeah, facts.
I'm not a Henry Cejudo guy either. I really don't like him. He runs his mouth way more than he should. But
facts.
I got Cejudo in a TKO. What up, though?
Timmy Todd. Gotta call it how it is, though. You're not out wrestling Triple C, so
I'll call it how it is. I don't like Aljamain Sterling.
That too.
I'm very honest about who I like and who I dislike. It's very, very obvious.
Also, for my rooting interest, I'm not an Aljo guy, but I am a Merab fan. So Merab and Aljo are like best friends. They train together. They've already said they're not going to fight each other. So for my rooting interest, I need Henry to win this fight so that we can see him fight Merab next for the belt. And that's going to be a fight that I can't wait to see.
Sean O'Malley. He wants to fight Sean O'Malley if he wins.
I get it.
It's a huge money fight for him. Exactly.
He wants the money. I don't want to see Sugar Show fight a guy that wrestles as much as Aljo or Cejudo. So I think we put that one on the back burner.
That fight's going to be a beating if it happens.
I wouldn't mind watching Sean O'Malley get beat up. I don't like him either. So there's a lot of fighters. And
jeez, you don't like anybody.
It's funny. I do. I have my guys I like.
You like Jorge. Out of all people.
He's done. I mean, he retired. Don't piss on his grave. You don't need to do that. I'll be honest with you. I hated Habib when he was fighting. But at the end of his career, I respect.
Why? Why'd you hate Khabib?
I rooted against him often. I always wanted
I mean, that's okay.
I always wanted that fighter to knock him off. I wanted Justin Gaethje to beat him. I wanted Dustin Poirier to beat him. I wanted Conor to beat him. I
see. I don't know. That's weird. I don't think Khabib's like the people that you don't like. I kind of understand because they have that whatever you want to call
very
it,
boring to
moxie,
watch.
their
He
flair.
I know a
really slowed down
ton
the
of
main
people.
event.
Yeah, I know a ton of people that didn't like Khabib.
I get not
You
like
don't like
watching
him
him
because you don't like
fight.
watching his championship fights. He just absolute dominance.
Okay.
And I didn't like that.
If you say it
But
like that,
after
I
his
understand that.
career, I gave him a lot more respect. Obviously, now I'm considered a Khabib fanboy on the show because I think he's a Mount Rushmore athlete. But my point being is, I'm very honest about what they are. I can still root against them. I was a huge Lyoto Machida guy. Lyoto Machida was my favorite fighter for the longest time. I loved Machida karate.
Machida was so different. He was cool. Like you didn't have to like him, but he was definitely a guy you never rooted against.
I'm not gonna lie. There was a moment in time where I'm like, yo, like, I don't know next time he's gonna lose. And then he fought John Jones, and I'm like, oh. this guy is normal. Not normal, because Lyoto was one of those guys,
that
but
made him normal. He's fighting Shogun. He was like a -800 favorite, and he won a dirty decision. Like, I don't know if he necessarily won the fight. He won it 3-2 in a 5-round decision versus Shogun. And then they fought again, and Shogun knocked him out in the first round. And Shogun's not a knockout artist, but for whatever reason, Shogun had that ability to get in on Machida. And then Machida came back and beat old man Liddell, and then got in there with John Jones, and John Jones just absolutely decimated him. I know his whole career, man. I was a big Machida guy. That front kick that he gave to Randy Couture, though, was hilarious.
Bing!
Just knocked him
that's
out
the other thing that's cool about Machida is that he was so up and down in weight and everything. Like, I love that.
Shogun might be the biggest pride fraud out of all of them.
I mean, he was a fraud. He was just old by the time he got beat up. He ended up winning UFC championship. You got to give him credit. I don't think he's a fraud. I mean, if you want to be honest about it, there's a lot of guys that came from Pride that underwhelmed in the UFC. One of them being Vanderlei Silva. He was talked about as being the axe murderer.
Well, they all were, because they were all in freaking roids over there, dude. When they came to UFC and they got tested, they all started looking real frumpy all of a sudden.
And a lot of them did fight the same. They would have like trilogies before it was cool.
Yeah.
Fight the same guy and, beat him 3 times. And, this guy's 17.
I might be a terrible human being, but I don't care if you're on steroids if I'm watching fights. Like, I don't.
Well, see, but you say that.
As long as both guys are on steroids.
See, that's what I was going to say. Agree. But, I mean, you say that, but then, that's your big thing against Jones, too.
Well, it's not just steroids. It's the cocaine. It's the abuse of his wife. There's a lot of things I don't like about John Jones.
If we're being him as a person, honest, I'm talking about him as a fighter.
Yeah, but I can't.
No, I don't think anybody's going to.
Bro, do I like Tyreek Hill? No. The answer is no. I don't like guys that abuse women, bro. I've never. I've literally been on that hill since I started.
Nobody's going to.
Nobody's clear. I don't think anyone does.
Yeah, nobody.
But I can't pull myself for somebody that does that.
Nobody confuses John Jones with a good human being. I mean, not me anyway. But
yeah, he's not the time person of the year,
bro. When you talk to Control, I'm not trying to call you out, but when you talk to you, he's your favorite fighter, man. Like, you call him
because I like watching him fight because that's what he is.
But at the end of the day, I
can separate John Jones as the person from John Jones in the cage.
And I respect that you can, but I can't do that. If you hit women, bro, there's no place in. No, I can't. Listen, guys, after all the things that I've been through in life, after all the opportunities that I had that were thrown against me, I've always kept my hands behind my back. I would never, ever put my hands on a woman. There's never an opportunity that would ever happen. I just don't, there's no excuse for it. There's no excuse for domestic violence. And I got to get off that kick. I got to stop talking about it. It's just done. I'm done.
Let's talk about horsies.
Agreed.
Let's talk about horsies.
Let's talk about the ponies.
Chow, you got to give us this oh wow, never mind. I have no idea. It's Saturday. Great. I pick a winner. I know who's gonna win I know who's gonna win just because I can see the future.
I'll give you a little intro what you want. I
That's
mean,
what I want.
it's all on here this anyway. But it's the 149th run for the Roses, Churchill Downs, Louisville, Kentucky. Cottrell's got up here 1.25 miles. First leg of the Triple Crown. The biggest horse race in the world. It's it's a great time. Looking like we're gonna have good weather Saturday. Friday they're gonna get a little bit of rain, so I mean the track could be questionable Saturday. I'll leave it at that. So if your mutter wasn't a mutter, some of these horses might be in trouble on Saturday, but we'll see how much rain they get. But we can go over. I don't know who wants to start, who wants to do whatever, but there's a lot of. I will say this. This is one of the deeper fields in the Derby in a while. Like there's a lot of horses that are not the favorites that have come in here that have had a decent amount of success. Have it be top twos, top threes in a lot of other races. There's obviously a couple crazy long shots that could still win, but there's a lot of really good horses in the race this year. It's gonna be really.
Anytime you get a John Velasquez horse 50-1, you got to throw $5 on it.
Best, you're not wrong. He's the best jockey in the race. Best jockey in the race.
So I'll give you my what's the superfecta, the 4.
Superfecta's top 4.
Okay, I'll give you my top 4, and I think I have it in order. I could be wrong. I have Angel of Empire at 4. I have Reincarnate at 3. I think Velasquez will get him close. I have Forte at 2, and my winner. And I think this horse wins the race. I think he's in a perfect position. I think he's around 2 horses that he's going to blow out off the gate, which is huge. His Practical Move and Ramon Vasquez. I really like that setup. I'd like the 10 horse. He's not going to get caught in the middle because he's got 2 horses that are slow starters around him in Disarm and Skinner.
You and me, Cottrell.
I'll go. I don't have my superfecta, still working out the kinks and the mathematics of that, but I got my winner, and that's what really matters. My winner, Tappet Trice. Tappet Trice is 5-1, so he's the second favorite in this race. He's 3-0 so far in 2023. He's won his last 4 races. He's only lost 1 race in his career, and this is a young pony. He is ready to keep it rolling. He's going to go Churchill Downs, and he's going to be smelling the roses. I love Tappet Trice here.
All right, I'm going to give you my superfecta. Number 4, I got Hit Show. He's going to start on the rail. I don't think he's going to win. The big thing about Hit Show is he's got one of the best speed ratings in the race. He has raced against Angel of Empire, Forte. He has never finished lower than 3rd in any of the races he's raced with them. He has the speed to get there. He's around a bunch of horses that are on the inside that are not going to go out as fast as him. He should be able to get around probably the 1st or 2nd turn and be in that lead pack. If Manny can keep him there and keep him on the pace, he's got a shot to hit the podium at the end. 3rd place. I'm going Rocket Can. He's going to be right outside with Forte. He's probably going to stay on Forte's hip, ride him out. Forte is going to get a very good break in this race. 15 pole is a very good starting spot for him. More on him in a minute, though. Rocket Can's got great speed. Another one, Florida Derby, Arkansas Derby. Been in the top 3 or 4 every one of his races. He has the speed to win this race. Number 2, the horse that Gene already mentioned, Angel of Empire. I love him. Again, grade 1 stakes winner. He's won 2 races coming in. Very experienced 3-year-old, 8-1. Very good horse. I have him coming in 2nd. Number 1, he's 3-1. I know he's the favorite. Favorites don't always win this race. I could tell you, as long as he gets a good break, he is going to be there down the stretch. Forte is the fastest horse in this race. Won the Arkansas Derby, won the Gulfstream, has the fastest speed rating of any horse. He has not lost the race yet. He has not stared the back of another horse's ass in his career so far as a 3-year-old. The horse is a stud. Only thing that legit even concerns me a little bit is Ortiz Jr. being his jockey. A little bit inexperienced compared to some of the guys in this race for sitting on a horse in the Derby. He's got a great horse. He should get a good break out of the 15th. The 15th hole, like I said. He shouldn't have to press that horse early. He should be able to get him to the first corner, kind of just sit off the lead, and when he brings him around the 3rd turn, just smack the hell out of him. He's probably just going to pass everybody. As long as nobody's in front of him, he's going to win the race. So That is my superfecta.
I think there's one. I read this and I watched it on TikTok. There's a wild horse in this race where apparently they have a lot of, and he's the number 6 horse, King's Bomb, and he's not going to win the race, but apparently he's had like 2 violations in which he's cut across. You only seen it one time in the Kentucky Derby, but he's wild. He doesn't stay in his lane apparently, and
He's a lunatic.
that's the reason I stayed away from Tapit Trice, because he's a fast starting horse and he constantly cuts lanes. So hopefully for your case, he cuts Reincarnate out and not Tapit Trice. But I think he's going to cut Tapit Trice out. That's the only reason I stayed away from Tapit Trice. I don't have him in my top 4, but he 100% could win the race. I think that Cottrell's spot on if he stays away from King's Bombs.
I think as long as Tapit Trice gets out of the gate fast, which he should. I just a guy. I think when you come out of first turn, you're gonna have Tapit Trice. He might be in the lead. I think you're gonna have Hit Show right to the left of him on the rail. Then you're gonna have all the other guys like we already talked about. You're gonna have Angel of Empire, Forte, and all those horses just kind of closing in from the right and just settling in. If they all get a clean start and nothing crazy happens down the backstretch, I think you have a potential for a very, very crazy finish. Like somebody passing 4 horses, another horse passing 3 horses. This could be a very, very fun Derby. Like I said, there's a lot of good horses in the race this year. A lot of good horses.
All right. Well, that's Kentucky Derby. Let's move into You Gotta Be Kidding Me. Cottrell, you want to start us off?
Yeah, I'll start us off, and I'll start off with a guy who I kind of was a fan of, but he's just been making bad decision after bad decision, and that is the former UFC heavyweight champion Francis Ngannou. So Francis Ngannou has been kind of just shopping his services around. He's gone to PFL. He's gone to ONE. He's gone to bare knuckle fighting. Everyone so far has basically said that Francis has been a little, what's the best way to put it? I'll just say he's been very unwilling to negotiate. Let's just say that his terms have not been logical terms, and no one wants to work with him. The ONE CEO basically came out today and said that while they were having negotiations, he offered Francis Ngannou $20 million guaranteed, which would blow out any UFC fighters guaranteed money. And Francis basically said, no, thanks. I'm good. I want more. So Francis Ngannou, as fun as it is to watch you fight, as great as a fighter as you are, you're not a Conor McGregor. You don't do crazy things on the mic. You don't sell like that. So for companies to offer you $20 million just because of, the talent that you have and the knockout ability that you have, you shouldn't just sneeze at that. I get it. I've always been a proponent that these fighters should be paid more. $20 million is more than enough for you, Francis Ngannou. I think this is an absolute mistake. And, at the end of the day, I think you might be put in a situation where it's going to be boxing or bust for you, because these mixed martial artist organizations are probably going to try and blackball you at some point. If you're hard to work with and $20 million isn't enough for you, these smaller organizations, they don't have $20 million just sitting around to give to you. So I need you to figure it out. I don't want this to be the end for you, but you got to figure it out fast. If you want to box and you want to get your money, I'm cool with it. Go get your money, but you got to figure it out and figure it out fast, because the way you're doing it is just not working out. So Francis Ngannou for me.
Come on, you gotta be kidding me.
I really hope Bill's not using mine.
He didn't have a good week in regards to prospects either. Deontay Wilder got arrested 2 nights ago. I mean, there was a lot of rumors those two were going to box. And then John Jones came out and said today that or I think yesterday actually maybe, that if he beats Stipe, that he probably thinks he's going to retire. He said the one fight he would stay for would be Ngannou. The problem is now, man, if he comes crawling back to Dana's going to bend him over the barrel at this point with what he did. So, I mean, John Jones will make a fortune. UFC will make a fortune. Francis will make decent money, but not what he would have made if he would have stayed. So there's one big fight left for Francis right now, and he's got to make it before he leaves, because if John Jones beats Stipe, which, I know he's your boy, Cottrell, but I think we all agree he's probably going to. That is the marquee fight. There is no bigger fight on this planet for Francis than to step in the cage against John Jones for the heavyweight belt. So he cost himself some money. So that was a good one. I'm not going with a person this week. I'm going with a team. And anytime I can take a shot at this city, I will gladly take it. You gotta be kidding me this week is the Boston Bruins, you bums. You set, you go all year and set every record in the NHL, and you go up 3-1 against Florida, who got it in the playoffs the last day of the season. Last day, with a backup goalie, an ex-Flyer, mind you, and 2 ex-Flyers actually, because both their goalies are ex-Flyers. And then you blow a 3-1 lead with 2 games at home. Totally choke. If you're any kind of hockey fan, Bruins probably, a crazy stat at this point. The Bruins pretty much hold, I would say 2, debatably 3 of the worst 5 choke jobs in the history of the NHL. They were up 3-0 against the Flyers and lost that series. They lost another 3-1 series. I don't know what's going on, man, but there's nothing better than I like watching the city of Boston burn when it comes to sports. So for this week, choke jobs, the Bruins, you're going to dismantle your team now. Your leader's leaving. I wish I could say I'm sorry or I feel sad, but I'm not. So I love to see it.
Come on, you gotta be kidding me.
Mine will fit right into what I was just talking about 5 minutes ago. Mine this week is Jackson Mahomes, the brother of Patrick Mahomes. Kid's 22 years old. He was booked he's been charged with 3 counts of aggravated sexual battery and an additional 4 count of battery. He is shown on video grabbing a 40-year-old woman by her neck and kissing her. It's on video. The video is published on TMZ if you want to see it. Jackson Mahomes has already been caught dancing on the Sean Taylor Memorial. He's done a lot of really stupid things, and this one might take the cake completely. Any disrespect and forcibly grabbing a woman by her neck. I hope he gets arrested, and I hope they put him in jail. Not a Jackson Mahomes fan to begin with. As always, we have to wait till all the details come out, but the video is very damning. And Patrick Mahomes has been nothing but a consummate professional in the NFL, but his brother Jackson's been bringing nothing but bad things to the name Mahomes. And for this week, Jackson Mahomes.
Come on, you gotta be kidding me.
I didn't want to go too deep into it, but they provided law enforcement with the tools and evidence they need to evaluate the claims against Jackson. There's video clips all on the internet. I'll let you be the judge of it yourself, but it doesn't look good.
I think the one thing that's kind of telling to me is that this story broke like maybe a month and a half, 2 months ago. And so for them to have done their investigation and now they're deciding to arrest Jackson, I mean, again, I don't want to make full speculation here, but it seems like they clearly had enough evidence to move on after a month and a half, 2 months. So I'm with you.
I just, I've been very consistent on this show, and I'll be consistent on any platform you ever put me on. I will never, ever, ever take any abuse of women. It just doesn't, as a grown man to put your hands on a woman or force yourself sexually on a woman. You're never going to get sympathy from me. I don't care. I don't care if it was a kiss. You put your hands around the woman's neck. You're 22. She's 40 years old. You put your hands around her neck, and it's just watch the video. I don't want to get to it's ongoing trial, and I don't like calling people guilty until they're proven guilty, but it doesn't look good. And I will always call that stuff out on the show. So any final comments, gentlemen?
I will say too, the thing that's even, I don't even want to say weird, but like with Mahomes, like his brother with Jackson, you essentially have the best job in the world. You just have to be Patrick Mahomes' brother. Clearly you guys are tight. He's always with him. He is worth $500 million right now.
You hit the freaking lottery.
You don't have to do anything. Like, I get it. You want to have some shine, you make your TikToks and stuff, but you mentioned it, Gene, the Sean Taylor thing. Now this, I don't know how you don't have the idea to just sit down, be grateful for the life that you're living, live an extravagant life, make your TikToks, do all that, but just don't be an asshole. Don't make dumb decisions. Like I don't get it.
Like I said, you obviously don't know the full story, but the video speaks volumes. And I
Don't know the full story, but regardless of whatever comes out, it's still a bad decision.
100%.
Regardless of whatever, even if it's not criminal, it's a bad decision.
100%.
His lawyer came out and said that they use that snippet of the video to make it look a certain way. There's a whole other story. I mean, we'll see.
I just don't know how you can explain putting your hands around a woman's neck. I'm grabbing her. Like there's no explanation. Like, what are you gonna say? Like, oh well, she told me she liked this in public. I don't like. What is the response to that? I don't want to get.
I mean, like I said, he's like you said. I mean, we always wait till everything comes out. He's been charged, and we'll see what comes out of trial. I mean, it sounds like that's where it's going to go. So, I mean, we'll hear whatever defense they have for the situation.
All right. Well, any final comments, gentlemen?
Nada.
Well, go 76ers. Looking forward to them having hopefully going up 2-0. They're only down 7 so far. This episode will be downloaded on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and iHeartRadio. Give us a follow, a retweet, share. Thanks for tuning in to Wire to Wire Sports Podcast, show 134. We are signing out.